Hey YouTube, it is League turnover today. Week of September 10th to 17th, you have Ultra League and the Little Cup Galar is on again. So in this video, we are going to go over a bunch of new Ultra League teams, right? So a bunch of Pokemon got buffed. They have risen in the rankings. So we're going to look at teams building around those Pokemon. But before we do that, we need to figure out what the new rankings are and why these Pokemon have risen. So some of these, basically what I said in my videos that I've covered some of these Pokemon in the Beyond the Hype will transfer directly to the Ultra League. So before we go into what's new on this list, let's just go over what's old, because some of these old Pokemon are still in the top 20 for correct reasons. Zygarde's number 1 now. It is just a very, very, very bulky Pokemon, kind of one of your best dragons you're going to get in this meta. Also, kind of benefits from the new meta. It is, yes, there's more fairies, which is going to be unfortunate for it, but there's also more poisons. And with that, having a super effective earthquake for poisons gives you a little bit of a leg up there. So Zygarde, the new number 1 for Alligator as Shadow 2 and non-Shadow 8, it's one of the best safe swaps. You're going to see it as a safe swap on multiple teams because it is just that strong. Shadow Claw is one of the best moves in the game. Hydro Cannon is one of the best moves in the game as well. And then you have some Ice Beam coverage for your dragons and stuff that resist Hydro Cannon. So super, super, super strong Pokemon there. Cobalion and Virizion have been in sort of the top 20-ish for a while now. They got their double kick. Once they got double kick on these Pokemon, they become very, very strong. Both have Sacred Sword as well as the legacy move. So very fast charging, double kick, Sacred Sword, and then they have coverage moves, either Leaf Blade or Stone Edge. So just legendary Pokemon, good stat product, good move set, overall good coverage. One of your main issues that you always had trouble with was Giratina, and Giratina is still on this list at 11, but it has taken a bit of a hit. It was like number 2 last season, but a little down now. Registeel got that Zap Cannon nerf. It was the number one ranked Pokemon, down to number 10. Again, a lot of that is just because the Zap Cannon got nerfed. You're not lowering your opponent's attack as often. I don't think it's going to go anywhere. I think Registeel is extremely strong, and I think there's more fairies now, and poison. So I think that Registeel is going to be probably everywhere still, and if I'm probably running with the team, I wouldn't be surprised if I have it on my team. Giratina, same thing. It was a top 3 Pokemon. Nothing got nerfed on this Pokemon, but everything else that has risen up beats it, right? Malamar's a dark, Clefable's a fairy, Pangoro's a dark, Licky is a normal typing, Drapion is dark. You also have Dusknoir, which is Ghost that can hit you for a super effective well. So like everything that's risen in the top 20 can hit super effective against Giratina, which is not a situation you want to be in. And how can you still be ranked 11? Because it is bulky, it is spammy, it is still dominant, not dominant, but it's extremely strong since it has been since season 1. Regirock is one of those Pokemon that's always been in the top 20 and no one ever uses it because I think it ranks better than it plays, quite honestly. Like if you're going to use a Registeel being only 2 above is crazy to me. Like Registeel's far and above Regirock. But why is it ranked so high? It's still like a Regi, which has decent stat product anyways. It still has Lock On, which is the fastest charging move in the game. And it has 2 nukes, right? Focus Blast and Stone Edge. So it's still quick to get to those moves. So it's just still a strong Pokemon overall, but I would prefer Regi just given its typing. Mandibuzz is XL'd. Again, the flyers, there was 3 super, super strong flyers in this meta. Talonflame, Pidgeot, Mandibuzz. Pidgeot got nerfed, so Mandibuzz is your top flyer. If you need a good flyer to answer some of these ground type Pokemon, Mandibuzz is probably it. Steelix had its Breaking Swipe nerfed a few seasons ago, and you can see it's not even a recommended moveset. Dragon Tail, Psychic Fangs, Crunch, just because... I mean, it's still extremely bulky. Dragon Tail, there's still Giratinas and stuff. Good typing, there's a lot of resistances. Psychic Fangs can lower your defense, so you just kind of, between your bulk and lowering their defense, and then the hard-hitting move of Dragon Tail, it's just kind of combos there. Galarian Weezing, I don't remember where Galarian Weezing was in the previous rankings. I'll just touch on Galarian Weezing because it got buffed twice, so I'll just touch on it when we go through these new Pokemon. Okay, new Pokemon, number 3, Malamar. If you watch my video on Malamar, or you watched my underrated, overrated yesterday, I basically said that Malamar as a rank 9 is underrated in Great League. I think it's like a top 4 Pokemon. Psywave is a Shadow Claw, one of the best fast moves in the game. It is the same damage, the same energy, but it's a 1-turn move instead of a 2-turn move. So off the bat, your fast move is insane. You have 2 moves, Superpower and Foul Play, that with same type attack bonus do over 2 damage per energy, and both are extremely fast to get to. So you get into them in 5 seconds and 6 seconds. So having that while also having a unique Psychic Dark typing is pretty strong. Yes, there are more fairies now. You can see them on the list here. But there's still Giratinas and stuff like that. There's still a bunch of steals that you can throw Superpower at. Foul Play for anything neutral. Like, it's gonna be a very, very strong Pokemon. Clefable, if you looked at my overrated, underrated, I think Clefable is always overrated, and that is because a lot of these wins depend on Swift. Now, that was in the Great League. I still think some will depend on a Swift bait. That being said, Fairy Wind, Moonblast, Clefable was always kind of strong on the rankings anyways. It's an XL Pokemon. Pure Charmers don't work as well in the Ultra League as they do in the Great League, because Great League, you can overpower with the Charm based on bulk. Based on the lack of bulk in the Great League. Everything is super bulky in the Ultra League, so you can't really overcharm something like you can in the Great League. So Fairy Wind is preferred, and it was one of the top Fairy Wind Pokemon before. Florges was ranked higher, I think, before, and so was Galarian Weezing, because they have coverage. Well, they don't have coverage move. Florges doesn't have coverage moves, but Disarming Voice is a really nice, like, you want to talk about a bait move. It's a bait move that hits super hard, and you get same type attack bonus on it. And Weezing has the coverage with either Brutal Swing or Overheat or whatever you wanted to use there. So Clefable now gets a move. It had Meteor Mash, which was still like a decent move. You're now replacing 2 for Swift. Again, it's kind of a bait move, so I think it's a little overranked, but it's a strong fairy if you want to test it out. Pangoro and Machamp, again, Annihilate and counter users, nerfed into the ground. So when you nerf what was a meta dominated by counter users, Annihilate, Scrafty, you can get everything from like Toxicroak to a few others in there. Goodbye all of them. Hello Karate Chop users. Pangoro, Machamp. Pangoro ranked a little bit higher because that dark typing gives you way more coverage on Giratina and Cresselia. Although Cresselia with Moonblast can hit you as well. And you're double weak to Fairy. So now you have 2 weaknesses to Fairy. The other thing that separates Pangoro from Machamp is your moveset, because you have moves that you get to in 4 and 5 Karate Chops, Night/Close Combat, as opposed to Machamp, which is recommended is Stone Edge, which is a 7-turn move. So having a nuke of a Close Combat at 5 and a bait move that can boost your attack at 4 is a pretty strong combo. Licky Licky. I use Licky Licky. If you go through my past teams, top teams, past seasons, I use Licky Licky as a safe swap in the past with Lick, because it was such a strong... It was basically the XL version of Lickitung, had Lick and Body Slam combo, and then had Shadow Ball as your secondary move. And again, in a meta dominated by Giratina, where you can just like double resist the claws, it was just such a strong Pokemon. Now it has rollout, so it gets a little more of a buff. So I think it should be like a top safe swap. I have it as well, a safe swap on one of my teams. Gone over all of those. I kind of ignored Florges, but no, did I talk about Florges? Florges was always one of the top fairies. Again, fairies are better as Fairy Wind users, and this is one of the best Fairy Wind users. Good bulk and good sort of stab and damage per energy on these 2 moves, Disarming Voice and Moonblast. So that's why it's just so up there. And a meta that is not dominated, but a ton of darks and a ton of dragons. Having a fairy is not a bad option. Just cover your like steel weakness and stuff. Drapion should be now like a top 3-4 safe swap in this meta. Again, it was always a good safe swap in the past. Now you have a buff Poison Sting to go along with it. Super spammy. 4 Poison Stings to an Aquatail, 5 to Crunch. Good coverage overall, being a poison with some water and dark coverage there. So just going to be strong. Dusknoir. Astonish is a very hard-hitting move. I used it on Drifblim in the Great League, and I'm so surprised how much it does. They buffed the crap out of this after it being a garbage move for 19 seasons, so it was overdue. But yeah, they buffed the crap out of this thing. And now Dusknoir is an XL Pokemon, so it has the bulk, and then you have just a kind of a bait move in Shadow Punch, and then the sort of nuke and Shadow Ball both get same type attack bonus, so you're going to get good damage per energy on these. But you're just like a pure ghost, so cover your like dark weaknesses there. And Weezing, again, I kind of covered it, kind of didn't. It was always one of the top fairies because it's got that unique type where it's like fairy, but it's also poison, so you neutralize poison weakness. And it has the Play Rough, so you get the same type attack bonus on Play Rough, but you also have like a secondary coverage move. Brutal Swing got buffed. Lower damage, but lower energy. So those things come very, very, very quick now. Only 4 Fairy Winds to a Brutal Swing. So that is a great stat. I expect, honestly, I look at Clefable and look at Florges. I would expect Weezing to probably rise up above those two in terms of fairies. But again, I did build based on this ranking. So you're going to see teams. Basically, on my teams, I just kind of go down the list. So Malamar is the first team, Clefable is the second team, Pangoro / Machamp is the third team, right? So that's how I team build. So let's start looking at some of those right now. Okay. Malamar, Feraligatr, Weezing. Right? I said, so Malamar has that sort of unique psychic dark typing, weak to fairy. And then, but you can superpower, you can have that, and you have like just foul play coverage, but weak to fairy. And then you have Feraligatr, which is just one of your best save swaps in the meta. I don't need to explain why it's so strong. I already have. And how do you cover your weakness? So it's a balanced team. If you're going to be weak to fairy, covered it with a poison, and then I've got other poison teams later. So I'm like, what other poisons can I use? Oh, hello. Galarian Weezing is a poison / fairy, which should do very, very well in this meta. And when you look at the breakdown of its like wins against the main meta, easily covering like the darks and all that stuff because it's fairy, and then being able to do well with like poisons and everything kind of else in between should make it a very strong Pokemon. And that Brutal Swing, giving it coverage for like Cresselia and stuff, could make it very strong. So Clefable I did test as number 2, and I just used this as a safe, balanced team. Clefable lead, again, I feel like some of these, I haven't actually looked through all the analysis here, but I almost guarantee that some of these are bait dependent. So Clefable, lots of good wins here. We'll have to see how much steel there is, because you won't have anything for steel, right? Because Swift and Moonblast will both be resisted by steel. So you got to cover your steel weakness. That's why I put in Swampert, put in another Mud Boy, put in a ground type Pokemon, just put in something to cover your steel weakness. And then Licky Licky is a safe swap. Again, because Licky Licky should be a strong safe swap. With this, you Poison Grass would be a little tricky on the lead because you'd have at best Swift. And then Licky Licky would have to deal with it, and then Swampert would get killed by grass, right? So just be aware if you're like a Poison Grass. Not that there's a lot of like Venusaur or something. Not that there's a lot of those running around in the Ultra League, so I'm not too worried about that. Pangoro, Tentacruel, Drifblim. So Pangoro, I started with the fighter. You can put in Machamp. It's going to have the same sort of matchups anyways. So obviously going to get killed by fairies. And the only thing with Machamp versus Pangoro, the dark typing. The dark typing is helpful against Pokemon like anything that throws Shadow Ball. First, anything that throws Ghost, you resist as a dark. So that's a positive. You're both going to get beat by fairies anyways because you're both fighters. So that adding a second fighting fairy weakness not going to change Pangoro's outcome there. And you get more coverage for like Girautinas and other ghosts. You also pick up a fighting weakness. So with the darkness, so that's why Virizion is going to be a loss, whereas Machamp it would be much, much closer. So just keep that in mind if you're going to use it. So how do we cover fairy weakness? How do we cover all these weaknesses? Tentacruel is has been a very, very, very strong Pokemon in this meta for a long time. Is your main poison, and then I'm like, I need a safe swap. I was looking at safe swaps. I'm like, okay, what's the main safe swap? It could use Feraligatr again. Normal typings would be a little tricky because his Pangoro is half dark, so you'd be double weak to fighting. If Drapion is a poison, you have double poison. Not that you can't run double poison. In fact, team number 6 is a double poison, but double poison would make you double weak to ground, so I'd want to change the front Pokemon. So I went into the switches and I looked down the list, and Drifblim was like a top 15 switch. And I was just say I did very, very well with Drifblim in the Great League. Astonish, like I kind of mentioned, is very, very strong this meta. Have Icy Wind for coverage there as well, being able to lower your opponent's attack. So I think Drifblim could be a nice like safe swap overall, not only on that team, but just in this meta in general. This is, you can see I started with Drapion because I just like, okay, I want to use it as a safe swap. So then it's just a balanced team. Basically, it's similar to team number, 2, Clefable and Swampert. Same idea. Florges, take your fairy. Gonna have problems with steel. Add on a Mud Boy. And then Drapion is a safe swap. So basically, it's just a balanced team with a safe swap. Not a ton to talk about there. Dusknoir. So this Pokemon got the Astonish buff, and it's already sort of bulky, so lots of good wins. Obviously, dark and normal typings are going to be an issue because when you only have ghost type moves, you have to cover your ghost type weakness. So covered it with, why did I cover it with Cobalion? Oh, I covered the dark with Cobalion and then the ghost with Feraligatr. That's why, because you have dark and ghost weakness here. You have dark, normal, and ghost are your three things that are going to do well against you because you're a ghost. So I covered the dark and normal typing weakness with Cobalion, and then ghost, you'll also hit super effective against ghost, and then put in Feraligatr as a safe swap with Shadow Claw to also deal with the ghost. So that is how I team built this team. Cobalion again to deal with your normal typings like Licky Licky, and your darks like Guzzlord, you can see, and Mandibuzz, picking up strong wins against all those things that are going to cause Dusknoir problems, and then a safe swap. So that is how the team was built. And the last one is a double poison team. Very, very, very similar to the double poison team that I dominated in Great League. I ran Chestnut, Drapion, and I used Quillfish to test it out. So Skunk Tank is the better version of the Ultra League Quillfish. So Skunk Tank as your second poison, and then the same typing, Fighting, Grass, Virizion was the same as Chestnut of the Great League. So Virizion, double poison, safe swap Drapion, try and draw out a poison. Sorry, Jesus. Try and draw out a ground type Pokemon. Virizion will dominate it, and then the other one will roam free. I think double poison is going to be a pretty strong strategy in the Ultra League. So that is it. I'll maybe put a poll out to see what people are going to play. I don't think people are going to play, honestly. Whenever there's an Ultra League, people don't play it because it's very XL focused, right? Here's all your Pokemon. You got legendaries all over the place in Zygarde and Giratina and Cobalion and Virizion, and then you got XLs all over the place in Malamar and Clefable and Drapion and Dusknoir and Mandibuzz and Steelix, right? And Registeel is both. So I did a video saying we have an XL problem, and every single time in my videos, views for Ultra League and Master League are half of what they are for a Great League. So whenever there's an Ultra League and it's something else, usually that something else does better. However, that something else is a little Galar Cup, which means it is 95% Shuckle and this Bronzer with a third. And it's very, very limited, that meta, because those two just dominate. So there's a few Pokemon that do well, everything from like Vulpix to Barboche to maybe one or two others. But it's a very, very, very limited meta, and I think it's already on its second week. I don't think a lot of people are going to be playing it. I'll do a top teams for it this afternoon. But I would not be surprised if my focus is on the Ultra League, but maybe we'll do a bit of both. Anyways, that is it. Let me know if you're going to be playing Ultra League or the Little Cup, and let me know if any Pokemon on this list or others you really want to test out or you think are going to be good in the Ultra League. But that is it. Thanks for watching. See you guys in the next one.